Canada to create a registry for podcast providers. The first step towards censorship of all speech the government regime doesn't like. The Canadian government, under Prime-Minister Jesse Trombone, has established a registry for podcast providers in what appears to be the first step towards censorship. The announcement came in the form of the Online Streaming Act, which is set to take effect November 28th. Under the law, any online service that offers podcasts will soon have to register with the Canadian Radio, Television, and Telecommunications Commission, CRTC, which is under the country's Department of Canadian Heritage. Any online streaming service that operates in Canada and generates revenue of more than $10 million in a given year must register, because they got to get paid, y'all. You're going to pay your registration fee and you'll fine. According to a September 29th press release by the commission, it is setting out which online streaming services need to provide information about their activities in Canada through a registration form. This form, which companies should accomplish by November 28th, collects basic information, is only required once, and can be completed in just a few steps. Don't worry, it won't hurt a bit. The press release also added that the CRTC is setting conditions for online streaming services to operate in Canada. To this end, it mandates these podcast providers to provide the CRTC with information related to their content and subscribership, and make content available in a way that is not tied to a specific mobile or internet service. This is so you can easily turn on and off the switch, y'all. This is how you stack the deck so that you are in total panopticon control. We are developing a modern broadcasting framework that can adapt to challenging circumstances. Yeah, probably like misinformation. And see, this is why this whole emergency broadcast thing, like, because now they can point back to it and say, let's look at all the idiots that told everybody that this emergency broadcast thing that was going to happen today. Well, it might happen today, and it might be at 1 o'clock, or it might happen by October 11th. And there's a 3-hour window on any of these given days, and blah, 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 blah. You know, it's like every palm reader man, you know what I mean? And it's so generic and basic, but it's going to create this zombie apocalypse, and all these people are going to be like some, radio controlled, whatever. And then none of it happens. And then these technocrats can say, see, this is why we have to censor these people, and you do have the right to be wrong, and you do have the right to be made to look stupid. And anyone reading your stupidity that has the right to be misinformed. Everybody, you have to consider the source. You have to read for yourself. You have to look into it for yourself. Carpe diem, right? Buyer beware. This is all part of Austrian economics and everything else. You have to be personally informed. Look at our food infrastructure, right? Just drive to any medium-sized town of 80 to 100,000 people and look at the fast food after fast food after fast food after fast food, right? McDonald's, Burger King, Bubba's 33, all these like mega corporation burger joints, and this joint and that joint and this Mexican restaurant and that, and it's all super hyper processed. It's all ultra terrible. It's incredibly expensive, and the hordes flock.
Oh, they do.
There every day.
Chick-fil-A, all of them.
Chick-fil-A, right?
And the thing is that I've tried these places like a couple times over my lifetime, and I hear all of the rage, even about Chick-fil-A and different things like that. Or
you mean like a good rage?
Yeah, like a good rage. Yeah, like they're raging fans of the product, and they go there all the time. Or Whataburger, I call them Whataburger because, and I try these things, like I've tried them several times, and I hear people talking all great about them. I'm like, it's not really that good.
No,
Like y'all don't even know what real food tastes like, because real food tastes 8,000 times better than that. Like you don't even know. Like I'm eating this fake burger and people are like, "Oh, dude, that's a great burger." I'm like, "No, it's not. That's a disgusting burger. You've never had a real burger then."
And it's psychotically expensive to keep you poor.
Stupid expensive.
To keep you poor. This is a whole new paradigm in America. People didn't used to do this, y'all.
Yeah.
Like people didn't like excessively and obsessively eat out. They certainly didn't do it 3 times a day. If anything, it was a luxury that you did once in a blue moon, once in a while.
Absolutely.
And you know why? Because you have zero control over how these meals, even if they appear to be wholesome, you have no idea where they source their materials from, how they're being processed, what kind of seed oils all this stuff is being doused and fried in, and everything else. You have no means of even remotely knowing, or what kind of people are touching it with and without gloves and slime and snot and bodily fluid and everything else, y'all. And I just can't get over the fact that people will just, and this keeps them poor. When you go to work, right, and you clock in and clock out and you do your Johnny 9 to 5 or whatever, and then you clock out at lunchtime and you go to whatever death trap that you're going to get your greasy whatever at, your greasy spoon deal, whatever, and you're going to drop, y'all, I work with guys, they'll drop 20 to 30 bucks on lunch. And they're morbidly obese, they're deathly ill, right? And they're financially broke because they're fiscally retarded, because they're dropping 30 bucks to poison themselves
every day.
Poison them. People will overspend to poison themselves. We're not even talking about like poisonous content that you allow into your brain. We're talking about being so completely ignorant and uneducated on the stuff you're stuffing into your face, because you have this chemical addiction to this industrialized food system that you cannot stop. This is why we encourage people to try carnivore, because you can break your food addiction, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe you'll heal, and maybe you'll save a little bit of money and you can get out of debt. Oh, I can't buy a piece of property because, you know, I spend $30 at McDonald's every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
You know, and I buy a coffee. I can't get over these people that buy coffees every day, y'all, multiple times a day. Average Joe people that barely make more than 20 or 30 bucks an hour, and they'll spend $6 to $8 a pop on a cup of coffee, and they might do it 2 or 3 times.
That's really cheap. If you go to stinking Starbucks, you're close to almost $20 when you leave there after you tip the people there.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Which the tipping makes no sense. Like you're at these fast food joints, right? You're paying through the wazoo, right? And then they're like, "Oh, would you like the tip?" I'm like, "No, you're getting paid $20 an hour here. Like you need a tip." Like,
and the thing about Morgan
like,
Spurlock is he is kind of like a ultra liberal shill, and he actually misrepresented that whole thing. So that's interesting. There's lots of interesting stuff on Morgan Spurlock, and that speaks to different documentaries and understanding the source and all these different things. But yeah, I mean, he did demonstrate that you can buy McDonald's French fries and you can set them out on a counter and leave them for years, and they will not mold.
No way. He made a video about that?
I think it's in Super Size Me. I know several people have documented the fact that, you know, all of these, because it's the seed oils that these quote unquote potatoes are fried in.
And all of this stuff, y'all, all of the fast food has not been tested. Like this is just in the last like couple decades, this whole fast food thing has been popping up too. So we don't even know the ramifications of it all either.
Yeah. Abigail said her husband prefers to eat at home. It's safer. It's healthier.
And it tastes better.
Cheaper.
It tastes better. A million times over.
It feeds you. It's nutritional.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not magically delicious, y'all, but it is good for what ails you.
Yeah.
And so, you know, all of this, all this topic is all interrelated, you know, and that's why they're going to establish this podcast registry. And so then they're going to have this registry, and they're going to be like, okay, so how many of these podcasters told all their listeners that with this emergency broadcast thing, that graphene was going to activate the zombie apocalypse? But don't worry, the white hats in the government that saved all the kids from Lahaina, and all the kids are safe. Don't worry, they're working on a serum to reverse nanographene and all this stuff, you know. And then they're like, okay, let's take all them down. Oh, and while we're taking them down, we'll take down a bunch of good people that actually have common sense and share like real facts about stuff. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But that's how this game is played. The CRTC statement clarified, however, that only social media companies and online streaming platforms must register, not individual users. Online services that provide video game services or audiobooks are exempt from the registration requirements. Oh, good. Don't bother the vidiots, the video gamers. No.
Wonder if you can now just identify as a gamer.
Probably.
There you go.
A list of registered services will be published on the agency website.
So, okay, so it's the streamers or like the pod players' responsibility now to sign up for them, or
no, it's the streaming, it's the service, it's the streaming service.
That's what I mean, the service, right?
Yeah. But right, so okay, so these are the podcasters streaming on my thing. Okay, what's their information? Bang. So it's the same thing.
Yeah,
it's just the individual podcasters don't have to register. No, you just have to do that when you sign up for your podcast.
You're using them. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Online Streaming Act could shut down content producers. The CRTC now wants to regulate podcasters, wrote Brian Lilly of the Toronto Sun. Here is my simple message to them. Go to HE double hockey stick. Nice. Lilly expounded on his opposition to the Online Streaming Act in an op-ed, warning that the new law could shut down some content producers. He continued, the players making more than $10 million per year are the platforms that content producers like me and millions of others rely on to get our message out to the public. Saying you won't regulate an individual podcaster, just the platforms they stream on, is like saying you won't regulate individual drivers, just the highways they drive on. Awesome analogy. The result is the same. Any rules imposed by the CRTC on the streaming service will in turn apply to the producers who use those services. The co-founder of Rebel News also denounced the CRTC as an aging relic, unable to understand the changing dynamics of traditional broadcasting. He continued that the agency is a body that doesn't understand the online world and shouldn't be in charge of regulating it in any way. And from my experience, all regulation ever does is hurt and harm people. And all regulation does is destroy the truth, right? It's just like all this USDA and the FDA and all these regulators and regulations. Yep. It's all about to make the transnational corporations bigger and more monolithic, and to soften and muzzle the individual, you know, because very much what the internet did at one point in time was decentralize everything, you know, and now they're putting Osiris back together again and getting the band back together and creating this monolithic panopticon of total and complete tyrannical control. And that's what's going on. So this registry speaks to the fact of just don't consider your information, consider the source before you share it, and don't buy into the tinfoil conspiratorious stuff. You know what I mean? Like, just think about stuff
Yeah, rationally, logically, you know, use some common sense.
Who, what, when, where, how,
Yeah.
why, all that
Yep.
stuff that they used to teach people how to think. But, you know,
Use your
key bono,
senses.
who benefits? You know, what's this all about? Who benefits from this?
Yeah.